Oma Jema Vama, Bhakta A Om Shaktima, Hail Mary, full of grace, all is love, all is one, I am. So today's video is about egoic possession, which a large majority of the populace is currently possessed by. So possession we think of as like an outside entity. And we see transpossession. And although that's a part of Southeast Asian culture and spirituality for millennia, in other cultures it's not widely understood. But even in Christianity, there's talk of being possessed by the Holy Spirit. And that's the most widespread Western religion. But even within the Christian culture, that kind of possession by the Holy Spirit is uncommon. And when it does happen, it's not widely understood either. Even in the Catholic Church, there are lots of stories of Catholic saints who were persecuted, even by the church, for when the Holy Spirit came upon them. So we think of possession as this outside force that comes in and takes control to one degree or another. And of course, our popular cultural references in Hollywood are uniformly negative about that. But people really never stop to consider the flip side of all this, because the ego itself is a possession, because it is not the eternal I, the eternal truth, the I am love. It is conditional, judgmental, fearful, anxious, capable of incredible cruelty, murder, mayhem, injustice. So we can say, like, you can see, like, when someone's very angry, they appear possessed. And they will even say afterwards, like, oh, I don't know what came over me. So they were possessed. They know it, or maybe they even don't have a memory of it. They blacked out in their anger. Same thing for depression. When people talk about severe depression, they feel like also like it's a possession. It's weighing them down, like they can't get out of it, like it's not them. Even when people are like they're super angry, and they'll say later, it wasn't me. You know, have you heard that or seen that? So that's the experience. It's like something has come over you and you've acted in ways which are, in your conscious mind, not acceptable. You were violent or cruel. And your behavior was like this extreme egoic behavior. So those are just the most extreme manifestations I'm illustrating. But actually, that ego, that same ego that's so angry or so depressed, is operating all the time in most people. And they're operating completely from there, not even aware that that is not them. They're completely identified with the ego as opposed to the Immaculate Self. So we can say, like, the whole society is possessed by the ego. And the whole society is unaware of this possession because they think they are the internal dialogue. They are the fear, they are the anger, they are the possessions, they are the habits, they are the conditions, the beliefs. You know, some people so identify with their belief system, they say that's who they are. Like, I am a Christian, I am a vegan, I am a carnivore, whatever. Like, that's their identity. That's just the ego again, because you are none of those things. You are the Immaculate Self. I am love. Anything else is an illusion. An illusion. So this negative possession, and that's what it is. It's a negative possession because on, let's say, the positive side, it tries to keep you safe, quote unquote. But in the bigger picture, it's a death program. I'm obviously not the first to say that and point that out, but the ego itself is a death program, almost like a death cult. So now relating this to our path, to Kundalini, to Shakti, so when you, and the ego, internally or externally, is confronted by, the Holy Spirit, by the Goddess, by this force of love and wildness and spontaneity and radiant joy and life force, prana Shakti, Kundalini Shakti. Some have the eyes to see and want in, but most will move into a more egoic stance out of fear. And how can you tell? Because they'll be unkind, they'll be separative, they'll be condemning, they'll be aggressive. They'll try to cut you off or denounce you publicly. And they act in ways which, if you know these people, you think like, that's weird that they're behaving that way. It is, because they're possessed by their egos. Instead of trying to understand or ask questions or be curious or find some kind of commonality, or at least let everyone be and let everyone just do their thing, like some kind of acceptance, no matter how mild, they cannot do it. So it's so ironic. They're triggered by what they see as possession, by Kundalini, by the Goddess, by a force that they're not familiar with and they have no or little understanding of. And in fact, they're possessed by their egos. So it's a massive projection. The one who's in Kundalini Shakti is becoming unpossessed. That's the point. They are freeing the centrifugal force that keeps the ego in charge. They're loosening the bonds of the fear, of the cruelty, of the acquisitiveness, of all the things that the ego displays. But the one who is reacting to the person undergoing this awakening is, it's supercharging their ego. Because the ego is trying to do its thing, keep apparently, or trying to keep the person safe, away from the unknown, away from the danger, perceived danger. And therefore will invent elaborate stories, have all sorts of fantasies, will not be able to actually see or hear the truth of the matter. Those with eyes to see and those with ears to hear are far and few between. So we can post a video here of someone undergoing a Kundalini awakening, and some people will react with, wow, amazing, it touched me so deeply, even not just touched me, but I felt a lot, and maybe it will help activate their Kundalini. Isn't that amazing? And for others, they will get super triggered and condemnatory and aggressive. But it's the same video. It's the same video. It's the same thing. So why does one react that way and one react this way? Because it's the ego and how strong their egos are. And so it's so important on this path not to take the opinions of people who are so deep in egoic possession seriously. So, of course, we can consider their opinions and we can engage with them if you feel to. If you don't feel to, you don't have to. but you just can't take it personally and you can't take it seriously. So you have to remain in your center of what you know, of your own personal lived experience. And the outside condemnation or fear or judgment is a test. It's a test of, can you stay in your love, in your I am love, in your immaculate self, in what you know to be true, in your lived experience, your own living Bible that of your experiences. And if you take it personally, like, what did I do wrong? Or maybe I'm on the wrong path, or maybe accuse them and start blaming and shaming and judging them. This is, you see, the ego is inviting you to go into the ego consciousness. It's inviting you to go into fear, into judgment, into separation, into condemnation, into all that. So don't take the bait. Don't take the bait. Just recognize it for what it is and just stay in your loving center. And you see, it's like the ego would like to bring you into its state. And if you can stay in your loving center, then not only are you more apt to grow into that loving center even more, but you may have the opportunity to inspire other people or to transmit to other people that loving awareness as well. And if you don't stay in your center, if you go off into separative ego, condemnation, judgments, fear, aggression, anger, well, then you're enhancing the ego, both yours, the others, and the collective ego. But when we stay in our center and our loving awareness, and we don't rise to the bait, and in fact, subtly or energetically, we invite them into the loving awareness with us, then not only is this helping our ego, their ego, also the collective ego and the collective awakening. So all these incidents which people go through when they're undergoing a strong Kundalini awakening are actually a big part of the path. A big part of the path. And we have to think of it as a blessing, because the entire universe is arrayed to nurture your awakening. It's Ma's journey through all of us, awakening me, awakening you, awakening everyone, awakening Ma. It's Ma's awakening. So, be the change you want to see, all this stuff, This is your opportunity, a beautiful blessing and opportunity in every perceived conflict around the subject. Can you stay in your loving center? Can you be kind? Can you be considerate? Can you not take the bait? And can you subtly, with your own heart, just by being in your heart, not out of manipulation or even subtle manipulation, but energetically and lovingly, welcome into a lighter state, a more loving state, a more loving awareness. And that's our challenge in this day of mass egoic possession, and to really understand the dynamics at play here, that this countervailing force, the ego, the aggressive ego, I call Agent Smith from the Matrix. It has lots of names and different traditions, but the countervailing force, some say the Antichrist or the Antichrist stream. Lots of different names for it. Watiko in the Native American tradition. So this countervailing force is not evil, you see? That's the other interesting thing. If it's all a blessing and it's all one and it's all love, and it is, then this egoic force is also love. I know it's paradoxical to what I was sharing before, but hear me out. This counterforce serves our awakening. So just as the perceived attack from the outside, if you're practicing staying in your loving center and increasingly are able to, no matter who says what, and what superficial judgments they have, then this countervailing force is helping you. It's a blessing, you see. There's a story of Ramana Maharishi where someone condemned him, and he had, like, maybe in a newspaper article, I don't really remember, but he had it printed and then passed out to everyone who entered the ashram. Exactly. So it's like you're totally transparent, and you're welcoming the criticism, even no matter how misguided, fearful, whatever. And so Ramana Maharishi, he stayed in the center, huh? He's like, okay, that's what people are saying. Let's not hide it. Let's not suppress it. Let's not hire our lawyers to attack the guy. Let's not beat him up in the street. I won't send my goon squad to get him. No, I'm going to print it up and pass it out. So that shows obviously a very high level of development. Judge not, lest you be judged. Judge not, lest you be judged. And we're also encouraged by the teachings in the New Testament to turn the other cheek, to treat our enemies with love and kindness. So you see the same teaching is there. Treating enemies with love and kindness. So before in the New Testament, it was an eye for an eye. In the Old Testament, an eye for an eye. And in the New Testament, it's turn the other cheek and treat your enemies with love and kindness. So that means also treating your own ego with love and kindness, and not be too hard on yourself when you go into fear and condemnation and separation and all the other things. And just to be able to turn the other cheek internally and let it pass, and don't take it personally, and don't make any excuse to feed the ego. So you don't want to feed the ego internally, you don't want to feed it externally, you don't want to feed it collectively. You want to do is just stay in your loving awareness, stay in your heart, your Immaculate I Am Love, and keep going back there again and again and again and again and again. And not blaming the other, because they know not what they do. So that was Christ's message on the cross. They know not what they do. Elsewhere in the Bible it says, and the darkness cannot comprehend the light, cannot comprehend, unable to comprehend. So we cannot judge them for their lack of not being able to see or hear or comprehend. Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. And it's all just part of the game of awakening. So the important thing is not to take it too seriously, because the fuel of the ego is seriousness, and the death of the ego is joy and love. Oma Jai Ma Vama, Bhakta A Om Shakti Ma. Wishing you love and joy. Om Shakti.